We need this breadth of freedom, this high degree of freedom in how you approach this adventure. And in order to have that adventure, in order to have discoveries, you need to have some unknowns. That's Hidetaka Miyazaki, director of Dark Souls, creator of Bloodborne, and the man behind Elden Ring. And it's a design philosophy that most of the industry has quietly decided it doesn't have time for. Instead, we got quest markers, a glowing icon on your screen that says, go here, do this, and don't even think about it. And look, I'm not going to stand here and tell you quest markers are pure evil, because sometimes they're exactly right. You're 20 hours into a game and you've been asked to find the missing cat. You don't feel that adventurous and you just want to be done with this quest. Without a marker, you'll check in every corner of a village for 20 minutes. That's not exploration, that's just frustrating. Quest markers do solve a real problem. They respect your time and your mood. For low stakes objectives, they're the correct design call. But here's the thing. Somewhere along the way, markers stopped being a specific solution. They became the default, the assumed, the thing every game ships with. And when that happens, when every objective, every NPC, every collectible has an icon, something quietly breaks. You stop reading the world and you start reading the HUD instead. To understand why, look at how The Last of Us handles navigation. Naughty Dog never puts a waypoint on your screen. There's no arrow, no map marker, no glowing trail. Instead, they use landmarks. A water tower visible from multiple districts, a collapsed highway that reorients you every time you see it, light pouring through a broken ceiling, pulling your eye toward the exit. Senior environment artist Sean Van Gouda described their philosophy directly. If we do our jobs well, players should be able to piece together the stories of how these people lived simply by observing the environments. That's not just narrative design, that's wayfinding through world design. The environment team essentially said, we'll build a world so legible that you'll never need us to draw you a map. And it works. You always know roughly where you're going, not because a marker told you, but because the world told you. Now compare that to the games that cannot do the same. The ones where the buildings all look identical, where every corridor feels like every other corridor, where if you turned off the markers, you'd be genuinely and helplessly lost. There's a brutal theory floating around the game design community, and I think it's right. The reason some games won't let you turn off quest markers is because those games would fall apart if you did. The world design is load-bearing on the marker, and nobody noticed until you tried to take it away. So that's one end of the spectrum, worlds that guide you through design. But what about worlds that guide you through compromise, that want to encourage exploration while still slightly holding your hand? That's The Witcher 3. And it does something small that makes a massive difference. It doesn't give you a pin, it gives you an area, a rough circle on the map, somewhere in here, and it trusts you to go find it. That single design choice changes everything, because now the world has to do some of the work. You're scanning the environment, you're reading the terrain, you notice the broken fence, the smoke in the distance, the sound pulling you to the left. The Witcher 3 is still holding your hand, but it's holding it loosely. And that looselessness, that small space of uncertainty, is where exploration lives. And then there's Bloodborne, and Elden Ring, and pretty much the whole of FromSoftware's catalog. No markers, no quest tracker, sometimes barely any quest dialogue at all. Bloodborne sends you into Yharnam with basically a simple objective, which is to find the Pale Blood. You don't know what that is, you don't know where you are, you don't know where to start, and the game is completely fine with that. The more you play the game and the more you go through the environment, you learn bit by bit what it means to be in this world. Miyazaki's design philosophy on this is explicit. In a 2023 interview at the DICE Awards, he was asked how From Software builds worlds where confusion is an intended part of the game. His answers was 2 words: trust players. He expanded on that and said that players will figure out what to do next. And then he said this philosophy sits in the foundation of everything they make. Because when there's no marker telling you where to go, every visual detail becomes a potential direction. That distant castle isn't just scenery, it's a question. The fog wall isn't decoration, it's a door. You learn to read the world because the world is the only map that you have. And the audience responded. Elden Ring sold over 25 million copies, and Bloodborne is probably one of the most beloved games of all time. Their games are built entirely on the idea that players don't need to be told where to go. So why does every other game still ship with markers on by default? Well, it's because we've been trained. An entire generation of players raised on quest compasses since roughly 2001, when GTA 3 put that circle in the corner and the whole industry just basically copied it. The habit runs deep, and our tolerance for uncertainty has genuinely shrunk. Social media hasn't helped either. We basically want the answers fast now. Markers give us those fast answers, so we just stopped asking the question ourselves. And now it feels almost impossible to remove them. Not because players can't explore without them, but because most games were never designed to be explored without them. The marker was always load-bearing. It was covering for something. Miyazaki also said something else that I keep coming back to, about Dark Souls specifically. It is in some ways an incomplete game, and I like to think that it has been completed by players, by their discoveries as they moved along. That's the opposite philosophy to the quest marker. The marker says, here is the complete path, follow it. Miyazaki says, here is an incomplete world, finish it yourself. The Last of Us builds a world so rich you can read it like a map. The Witcher 3 loosens the grip just enough to make you look up, and From Software removes the grip entirely and trusts you to find your way. 3 answers to the same problem, and none of them are put a glowing pin on everything and call it design. We've been conditioned to need markers. That part is real. But Elden Ring proved that conditioning isn't permanent if the world on the other side of the uncertainty is worth discovering. The problem was never the compass, it was that we forgot to build somewhere worth going. That was it for today. Thank you so much for watching the video, and as always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.